Pittsburgh Steelers and the Detroit Lions played to a tie on Sunday. The Tennessee Titans proved why they are the best team in the AFC right now. The Green Bay Packers accomplished a rare feat that they haven't accomplished in a couple of years. The Minnesota Vikings kind of helped put a dent in the AFC West race. We will have all of that and more tonight on all the latest college football news and the latest my latest opinions on some of the college games that I watched this weekend. I'm going to have a lot to talk about, but we are going to start the show right after. We're going to start the show right after this. We got a lot to talk about here in about the next half hour or so let's just jump right into the show. The Detroit Lions and the Pittsburgh Steelers today played to a 16-16 tie, the first tie of the season in the NFL. For the Lions today, Jared Goff was 14-25 for 124 yards. DeAndre Swift from Georgia had 33 carries for 130 yards. Goodwin Hugabathias, 2 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown, and Jamar Jefferson, 3 carries for 41 yards today. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mason Rudolph, he was 30 of 50 for 242 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Najee Harris from Alabama had 26 carries for 105 yards on this Sunday. James Washington only had 2 carries for 15 yards and a touchdown. But give some love to the Steelers defense, though. Cameron Hayward, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss today. TJ Watt, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss today. Terrell Edmonds, 1 sack and 2 tackles for loss on this Sunday afternoon. The Pittsburgh Steelers now find themselves in a little bit of a hole. Could that have a game cost them? Because like I said, him and the Lions played to a 16-16 tie today. So there could be a lot of issues here. The Steelers also had 3 interceptions today. That was a problem. Keep in mind, the Steelers did not have Ben Roethlisberger today because of COVID. So he was out for today's game. Could that have hurt the Steelers? And what will that half game mean? Could that mean a lot? We don't know. The AFC North is very competitive right now. The Browns were losers today to the Patriots. I'm not going to go into the detail about that game because I just don't feel like it. I shouldn't sound like that. I'm sorry. But when it's a blowout and you don't want to talk about it, you just don't need to. But could that half game hurt the Steelers? We don't know. It's going to depend on a lot of things. All right, let's move on. The Tennessee Titans have proved why they're the best team in the AFC today, beating the New Orleans Saints 23-21. Ryan Tannehill, he was 19-27 for 213 yards and a touchdown, and he even had a 1-yard touchdown run by himself. Marcus Johnson, 5 catches for 100 yards. Jeffrey Simmons today was a beast for the Titans. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Harold Landry III, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss today. Naquan Jones, 1 sack and 1 tackle for loss on this day. But what about the New Orleans Saints? Trevor Siemian, 19 of 34, 298 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mark Ingram, the second from Alabama, 14 carries for 47 yards and a touchdown. Traquan Smith, 4 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown on this day. Marquise Callaway, 2 catches for 37 yards, and he did have a touchdown in the game. And Marcus Davenport, he had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for loss in this ball game this afternoon. The Titans won this game despite the fact that they only had 17 first downs, 264 yards total offense, and they were 3 for 12 on third down. But Ryan Tannehill knew how to get the job done. And the Titans defense, you better give them all 3 of those guys a game ball, because they were the reason why the Titans beat the Saints on this Sunday afternoon. And that's just all there is to it. This was a great game today. I was kind of flipping back and forth, seeing what was going on all over the league. This game caught my attention because the Tennessee Titans are the best team in the AFC. Now, I grant you the Saints are NFC. I understand, and I hear you. However, don't count the Saints out yet. Could the Saints still be marching into the playoffs? We don't know. But we'll have to wait and see how everything pans out. Okay. The next big game I want to talk about, the Green Bay Packers shutting out the Seattle Seahawks 17-0 in one of the late games today. The Packers got it done. Russell Wilson was back today after being out for a few games due to injury. Now Wilson had some rust on him. He went 20 of 40 for 161 yards, and he did have 2 interceptions. As for the Seahawks, not much to talk about. Rashawn Green, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. But as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, not spectacular, but he got the job done. He was 23 of 37 for 292 yards and 1 interception. A.J. Dillon was the player of the game. 21 carries, 66 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Whitney Marsilius, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Rashawn Gary, give him some love. 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. And Preston Smith, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. I give the credit for this victory for the shutout for the Packers to their defense. I mean, think about this. The Seahawks only had 15 first downs, 208 yards total offense, 2 turnovers, and they only had the ball for just a little over 20 minutes. The Seahawks had nothing today. Now, I grant you the Seahawks are below 500. But this game was painted as a battle between Rodgers and Westbrook. It never came to pass. A.J. Dillon had the 2 touchdowns in the game. Mason Crosby even threw in a field goal. And it was a little bit of a winter wonderland over in Green Bay today as the snow started to fall over at Lambeau Field. A huge win for the Packers. They're trying to make a playoff run. They're trying to go out to win the AFC North. If you stop to think about it, the Packers are the only team in the AFC North above 500. The Vikings are at 500 right now. The Lions have yet to win a game. But a big win today for the Green Bay Packers over the Seattle Seahawks will go a long way. And speaking of the Minnesota Vikings, the Vikings were 27-20 winners today over the Los Angeles Chargers. The Vikings kind of helped throw the AFC West into a little bit of a tailspin. And let's think about this. The Vikings are kind of in a hunt for a playoff spot right now, if you look at everything. For the Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins, he was 25 of 37 for 294 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook from Clemson, 14 carries, 94 yards, and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson, 9 catches for 143 yards today. Tyler Conklin, he only had about maybe 15 yards rushing on 2 rushes, but he still had 2 touchdowns. He had 2 touchdown catches in the game today. But some love to the defense. Cameron Byam, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss today. Eric Kendricks, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss for the victory for the Minnesota Vikings. As for the LA Chargers, not a good day for Justin Herbert. He was 20 of 34 for 195 yards, a touchdown. He got intercepted once. Larry Roundtree III, 5 carries, 10 yards, and a touchdown. Not much to brag about. Austin Eckler, 3 catches, 15 yards, and a touchdown of his own, and that was it. Joey Bosa, from Ohio State, had a sack in the ballgame. Eamon Ugochukwu had 1 sack and 1 tackle for loss today. The Vikings won this game despite being penalized 10 times for 118 yards. You think about this for the Chargers. They only had 200 nailed. Now, the Vikings got penalized for 118 penalty yards. But think about what the Chargers had. They only had 253 yards total offense. They only had the ball for just a little under 24 minutes, 23:45 to be exact. So the Chargers couldn't get anything going. They were playing from behind all game at home. The Minnesota Vikings are in a much better position than they were some time ago. And I'll say this. The Vikings have a chance to get into the playoffs. That's what they're fighting for. Now, the Green Bay Packers are pulling away a little bit in the NFC North. But if the Packers can get a bad break and the Vikings can win a couple of games, they can make the NFC North a little bit interesting coming down the stretch. Just something to think about. Okay, that is the game portion of some of the games I wanted to talk about, but I have some other NFL news around the league on this Sunday. Now, as you know, the Patriots beat the Browns 45-7 today. But in that ball game today, Cleveland center back Troy Hill got carted off the field after an apparent neck injury. But the best news of all, he has movement in all of his extremities. He was taken to a local hospital for treatment. He's got feeling in all of his extremities. That is fantastic news. I saw that hit. He was trying to tackle one of the New England guys, one of the New England players. I don't remember who it was. But I saw him go down hard, and they had to cart him off the field. Now, I've talked some smack about some other players. But think about this. When I saw Troy Hill go down, the first thing that came to my mind was Ryan Shazier when he was at Pittsburgh. I thought about the Shazier injury. He still has trouble walking to this day. He has to have a cane to get around. But Troy Hill, my prayers go out to you, bud. I wish you a full and speedy recovery. And what happens to you if we see you on the field again this season, I'll be so happy. But his season might be over. I will have more information on that for you later this week. In other NFL news today, Carolina quarterback Cam Newton scored 2 touchdowns in 2 plays, making history. He threw a touchdown pass and he ran for a score, making history, becoming the first player ever to accomplish that feat. He had touched the ball twice and it resulted in 2 touchdowns. How cool was that? And the Carolina Panthers are proving why they want to get back into the playoff race. Now, I know the Panthers may be down and out. Keep that in mind. The Panthers had a great day, but the New York Jets have had a rough go of it the last few weeks. The New York Jets have allowed 45 points or more in their last three of their last 4 games. The last team to accomplish that nightmarish feat, could you believe the New York Giants all the way back in 1966? It's been that long. I have never seen anything like that in my life. A team allowing 45 points or more in 3 games? How crazy was that? But it is what it is, like somebody always says. That was just some of the news around the world of the NFL here on this Sunday afternoon. Now, I want to address a few things that need to be addressed. Who has the best record in the league right now? The best record in the NFL right now, 3 teams are tied at 8-2. The Tennessee Titans, they have the best record in the AFC. The Green Bay Packers and the Arizona Cardinals, they're fighting it out in the NFC for the best record. But in the NFC, think about this. The Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams, they're 7-2. So we really have 4 teams battling it out for the best record in the NFC. The Cowboys were huge winners today. The Packers were winners. Now the Cardinals did lose today. Keep that in mind. And the Rams, they were winners today. Now, I want to talk about the 3-loss club. We have 5 teams that have 2 losses, but there are 4 teams that have 3. I want to talk about them for a minute. The Buffalo Bills. Buffalo, they are battling New England in the AFC East. Could Mac Jones and the New England Patriots take it away from the Buffalo Bills? Only time will tell that. The Baltimore Ravens, they are at 6-3. They had a bye week. Could that be a help? Tampa Bay, they are at 6-3. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are now 5-3-1 as a result of that tie. It's the Detroit Lions on this Sunday. Now, a lot of people have said, if you think about this, the Titans, they're the best team. They're the best thing going in the AFC right now. They're the only team above 500 in the AFC South, for crying out loud. Green Bay dominating their division. Arizona, don't doubt the Rams. The Rams are not that far away. And the Dallas Cowboys, they're the only team above 500 in the NFC East, for crying out loud. The chase for the playoffs is going to be very tight. But let's look at the AFC West for just a second. The West is tight. The Kansas City Chiefs were winners today. Were winners tonight just a few minutes ago over the Las Vegas Raiders, 41-14. And on top of that, the Vikings beat the Chargers, so that just throws the whole division into a tailspin. And the Denver Broncos, they're sitting 4th at 500 at 5-5. They still have a shot at winning the division. Everybody has said, Scott, do you really think is the AFC West that bad, or is it just competitive? You know, if you would have asked me that a couple of weeks ago, I would have said, it's not. Yeah, I would have said, I'm not going to answer that question. Because, I mean, the Chiefs, they were struggling. The offensive woes tonight were put to rest. They put 41 on the board against the Las Vegas Raiders on the road. That tells you something right there. The Chargers had nothing at home against the Minnesota Vikings, for crying out loud. That's not good. That's the truth of the matter. The Denver Broncos did lose today. They're at 5-5. They're at 500. They're still in the hunt, but they still have a shot at the playoffs. They still have a shot at a wild card. We're getting close to Thanksgiving, everybody. The Thanksgiving football season is almost going to be here before you know it. That's the exact truth of the matter. And that's the bottom line. All right. That is your NFL slate for this Sunday. Now, but the show's not over. I want to talk some college football action from this past Saturday. That is going to have the whole nation talking. But before we do that, we need to have a song by the Ohio State University Marching Band. It is called Hang On Sloopy. And I'll tell you what, there are some teams that are actually hanging on and thinking hanging on Sloopy, if you get what I mean. was the the song "Hanging on Sloopy," courtesy of the Ohio State University Marching Band. And guess what? I'm going to start the college football version of this show with Ohio State in a huge victory over Purdue on Sunday. The Ohio State Buckeyes beat the number 19 ranked Purdue Boilermakers 59-31. C.J. Stroud, 31 of 38, 361 yards, 5 touchdowns. Mion Williams, 14 carries, 117 yards. What a day for him. He was a beast. Travion Henderson, he had 102 total offensive yards for the game, and he had 2 touchdowns. Jackson Smith-Njigba, 9 catches, 139 yards, and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson, 10 catches, 126 yards, 3 touchdowns on the day. Chris Olave, 9 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. What a huge day for Ohio State. 30 first downs, 4 for 7 on third down, 624 yards total offense. And they outrushed Purdue 263-91. But think about Purdue. Purdue did have 2 costly turnovers in the game. Ohio State didn't have any. But as far as Purdue goes, Aiden O'Connell, he was 40 of 52, 390 yards, 4 touchdowns on the day. David Bell, 11 catches for 103 yards. Milton Wright, 7 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. Jackson Anthrop, 7 catches, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. Brock Thompson, 3 catches, 22 yards, and a touchdown. The next question is, has C.J. Stroud entered the Heisman Trophy race? That remains to be. I'm not sure about that. But if you stop and think about this, it could be huge. And I want to talk a little bit about the Heisman Trophy race here next week and where we stand. But a big win today for Ohio State. And it was a big one. Next up for Ohio State, Michigan State. The Big Ten East. The Big Ten East division is up for, will probably be, there's a 99.99% chance the division is going to be up for grabs. Because keep in mind, Michigan's already had one bad loss to Michigan State. And that's the bottom line. All right, let's move on. Number 13, Baylor got an upset victory over number 8, Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley is overrated. Overrated. I'm sorry, but I shouldn't sound like that, but it is the truth. Baylor got a huge victory today. A huge victory on Saturday, A huge win. Think about this. For Baylor, Jerry Bohannon, 12 of 21 for 117 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He ran the ball 9 times for 107 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns on the ground. Abraham Smith, 20 carries for 146 yards. Tyquan Thornton, they put him to use. 4 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown. But the defense gets about 75 to 80% of the love in this game. Here's what I mean. Terrell Bernard, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. TJ Franken, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Gabe Hall, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Matt Jones, 1 sack, 1.5 tackles for loss. And that was big. But as for Oklahoma, it wasn't much to talk about down in Waco. Caleb Williams started for Spencer Rattler. Williams went 10 of 19 for 146 yards, 2 interceptions. But he did carry the ball 10 times for 17 yards, and he did have a touchdown. Kennedy Brooks, 13 carries for 51 yards and a touchdown of his own. Jalen Redmond only had 2 tackles for loss. Brian Asamoah, 1.5 tackles for loss. That was it. Baylor did a super job, especially the defense. Because as a matter of fact, think about this. Oklahoma, 17 first downs, 260 yards total offense for the game. They were 2 of 9 on third down. Oklahoma didn't even have the ball for 25 minutes in this game. They got penalized 9 times for 86 yards, and Baylor outrushed Oklahoma 296 to 78. Oklahoma is they're out of the national title race. But you know what this means, though? If you stop and think about this, the Big 12 picture for the Big 12 championship game has just taken a major tailspin detour. Everybody thought Oklahoma was going to be a shoo-in for the Big 12 title game. Not now. Baylor took care of that. And on top of that, Oklahoma State's got to face Oklahoma to close out the season in the Battle of the Bellwether State. And I'll tell you this. You better believe the Oklahoma State Cowboys and everybody in Stillwater, including Coach Mike Gundy, who's like, I'm a man, I'm 60 or 70 now. I shouldn't sound like that, I'm sorry. But you better believe everybody in Stillwater is going to be licking their chops and looking forward to Oklahoma. Now that the Sooners have a loss, and it's a bad one at that. Baylor's going to move up in the top 25. Baylor's going to be in the top 10 come Tuesday when the college football playoff poll comes out. All right, let's move on. Number 15 Ole Miss beat number 11 Texas A&M 29-19 on Saturday night. For Ole Miss, Matt Corral, 24-37 for 247 yards and a touchdown. Jarian Ely, 24 carries for 152 yards. Dontario Drummond, 6 catches, 49 yards and a touchdown. A.J. Finley, you got to give him some love. He had a 52-yard pick six for a touchdown in the game. And Tavius Robinson, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. As for Texas A&M, it wasn't much to brag about. Zach Calzada, he was 24-42 for 237 yards. He was picked off twice. Devon A-Chain, 12 carries for 110 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns on the ground. DeMarvin Leal had 1 sack and 2 tackles for loss. Texas A&M could have done a better job of playing this game. 19 first downs. They were 3 of 14 on third down. They got outrushed by Ole Miss 257 to 141. And Texas A&M was penalized 10 times for 85 yards. A&M's hopes of an SEC championship game may have just gone up in smoke. Now it looks like Alabama is probably going to be in the driver's seat unless they get another conference loss, unless Auburn pulls off an upset, in which right now, I don't see that coming. Auburn lost to Mississippi State on Saturday 43-34. I didn't write down the information for that game. I should have done that. But the thing is, and here's the deal, the SEC West is far from decided. Anything can happen. So just stay tuned. And last but certainly not least, this game was well worth the talking about. Number 12 Wake Forest beat number 16 NC State 45 to 42, 45-42 final, and Wake Forest came out the winner. They are this close to being in the ACC championship game and getting a matchup against Pitt. But anything can happen, and it usually does. But anyway, Sam Hartman, give him some love. He was 20 of 47 for 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He carried the ball 13 times for 43 yards and had a touchdown. Justice Ellison, 17 carries for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game. A.T. Perry, 5 catches for 73 yards and a touchdown. And Brandon Chapman, 3 catches for 23 yards, and he did have a touchdown in the game. Wake Forest had some love on defense. Jasheen Davis, 1.5 sacks, 1.5 tackles for loss. Luke Masterson, he didn't have a sack in the game, but he had 2 big tackles for loss at the right time. As for NC State, it was a disappointment. Devin Leary, I hate these numbers in a losing cause. He was 30-7 for 59 for 408 yards. 4 touchdowns, but he had 2 interceptions in the game. Devin Carter, 7 catches for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Daniel Joseph, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Corey Druden, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. And Ibrahim Kanti, 1 sack and 1 tackle for loss for him. This is what hurt NC State. They were 3 of 14 on third down. And the other thing that killed them, penalties. NC State was penalized 14 times for 119 yards. You can't afford stuff like that, guys, in a big game situation like this. It may have just caught those 2 mistakes right there. 3 of 14 on third down and being penalized 14 times and having 119 penalty yards. You're not going to be playing in the ACC championship game now. You guys are out. Is Wake Forest safe? Not quite. They got to close out the season against Clemson and Boston College. And Clemson's had their struggles too. Keep that in mind. In Boston College, they're just barely above 500. But anything can happen. And it usually does. So now, we wait until Tuesday when the new college football playoff poll comes out. And when I get that information, I will get it to you and I will give you my opinion on where we stand in the world of college football. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for my closing thoughts on this night. As we head into the holiday season, as Thanksgiving comes up, we think about football, and it's going to be crazy. I'm going to tell you guys now. When I do, usually my YouTube Sports Weekend kickoff show, I do it on Friday. Thanksgiving week, I'm going to be doing it on Thanksgiving Day, and I'll be having an announcement about that later in the week. I'll probably have the announcement for you on Friday, just to let you know up front. But as we get ready for the Thanksgiving holiday, everybody's going to be thinking about spending time with their family, eating turkey, watching football, watching sports all day. And keep in mind, in college football, we have some big rivalry games coming up that weekend. Michigan, Ohio State, Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma State. It's probably going to be that weekend. And we got a lot on our minds, and we're going to have a full plate. So Thanksgiving Day at 11 a.m. Wait a minute. I haven't made a decision on the time yet. I thought about 11 a.m., but I know some viewers will want to watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I almost forgot about that. So I will go on the air at 12 noon Eastern time to get you ready for an NFL Thursday and get you ready for the college football weekend. There's going to be a lot I got to talk about. And that's the truth of the matter. Get ready for the holiday season, fans, because in college football, it's going to get crazy. In the NFL, the playoff picture is going to be becoming a little bit more clear as we go forward. And the college basketball season is going to be coming in full swing, and the NBA is in full swing. And I apologize for not talking much about the NBA because I've had too much going on everywhere else. It's hard to keep up a little bit, so bear with me. I'm just a one-man show. I'm not a big corporate guy who has all the producers. I'm the producer, the director, the executive producer, and that's how I am. And that is why I put the most important information on the air. And that's the bottom line. I want to thank you guys and all of you guys who tune in every week to make this show worthwhile. And that's the truth of the matter. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. It really makes my day when you guys do that. Thank you. Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I want to thank you guys so much for being with me. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. My name is Scott Manning. All you have to do is type my name, scroll down, look for this pretty face, click subscribe, and you'll see all the sports videos I have done so far. I will be back here Friday at 12 noon for the Scott Manning YouTube Sports Weekend Kickoff Show, and I'll have a lot to talk about then. But until then, this is Scott Manning saying good night, good luck, and thank you. And I thank you so much for being with me, and good night. Good night, everybody, and thank you so much for making this part of your night.